We are reading through the book of Matthew this month, taking a chapter a day. And each day I am posting a video clip, giving some thoughts about that day's piece. Not trying to go in depth or give every detail, but just a nugget or two, something to think about. Today we're talking about Matthew 24. The bulk of Matthew 24 is about what is to come. Jesus is talking about the end times, the great tribulation, signs of things to come. Now, I noticed the disciples ask for specific signs. Verses 3 and 4 tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? I love Jesus' response because he does not answer their questions. They have to take what information he gives them and leave it at that. He gives them words of caution, but that's it. He doesn't address their curiosity because they don't need to know. We often have that same problem too. We ask God questions and want to know things. When will I get through this situation that I'm in? Or when will you return, Jesus, and set this world straight? Seems like there's so much chaos with COVID and the politicians arguing in DC. When is this going to take place? Or why is it like this? We ask God all kinds of questions like that all the time. And quite often, God doesn't tell us. We need to be satisfied with knowing that God is sovereign and control of all. We need to trust God and leave it there. For most of the rest of Matthew 24, Jesus talks about when he will return. Now, as I mentioned, Jesus cautions his disciples. Lots will claim to be the Messiah. There will be many deceivers. He cautions them not to be deceived, not to be led astray. Now, those same words of caution are good for us too. There are people today who claim to be the Messiah. Some of them get very well known. David Koresh back in the 80s and 90s, and he led many astray. We need to be ever vigilant. Jesus talks about signs of coming times, but we're not to let these signs stop us from being who God created us to be. I mean, if you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were going to die in 2 days, you might not mow your lawn. You might not pay the bill, the electric bill, whatever it is, because you're not going to be around for the benefits. It's not going to matter. But the reality is we hardly ever know when we're going to die. Hardly anybody does. We need to be living life always. We may see some signs that make us think that God is coming back. The nation of Israel is restored. Jerusalem is the capital. This world is so crazy, so insane. I mean, so many signs, but we don't know. And we shouldn't be letting that stop us from what we are supposed to do in the meantime, making disciples of all nations, loving our neighbor. People say that these times are right, that the prophecies has been fulfilled for Christ's return. It's going to happen. But that's been true many times throughout history. Many times in history, people have said that on this specific date, Christ will return. And then they've been disappointed every time. Some have been well-known predictions. None have been true. In verse 36, it states that no one knows the hour when Christ will return. Nobody. We don't know. So in the same time, we are to keep being that man of God, that woman of God, that person of God that you were made to be. You need to keep loving your neighbor right up until Christ returns. I mean, when Christ returns, what do you want Jesus to find you doing? That's Matthew 24.